Salvete discipuli. Today we're going to review usus verbi infinitivi, or the uses of the infinitive. We had four main uses in level 1 that we discussed, and we're going to take a moment to go over them. Before we do, we should probably look at what an infinitive is. In Latin, we have two main dictionaries, at least in level 1. The first form is the first person singular of the present tense, and so amo means I love, and then it's the second form that is the infinitive. We're going to recognize it by its characteristic re, and it's these forms that we need to translate as to verb. So amo means to love. The infinitive also helps tell which conjugation of verb our verb belongs to. We have 5 main conjugations of verbs: first, second, third, fourth, and irregular, with a subgroup, the third IO. And we tell these conjugations of verbs based on the infinitive, and specifically the vowel that is before the infinitive. So in first conjugation, we recognize it by the A in front of the RE. Second conjugation by the E with a macron in front of that RE. Third and third IO conjugations we tell by the short E before the RE, and then the third IO is just a subcategory of the third that also has an IO in its first person form instead of the regular O. We need to keep an eye out for the third IO verbs because they essentially pretend to be a fourth conjugation verb even though they're not. Fourth conjugations we can tell by that I in front of the RE. And then finally, our irregular verbs don't actually have an RE in the infinitive. They have various other letters instead, such as sum esse, which has the SE. We had 4 main uses of the infinitive in level 1: the complementary infinitive, the infinitive with an impersonal verb, the infinitive as the subject of est, and then the accusative infinitive construction. So let's first talk about the complementary infinitive. One thing to note is it's really important to know that this is the complementary as opposed to the complementary infinitive, because the complementary infinitive completes a sentence. For example, Marcus arbores ascendere non volt. Here we have a main verb, Marcus does not want, and then the infinitive completes this idea since it can't stand on its own, what he wants, or rather does not want, to do. Marcus does not want to do what? To climb trees. Sextus arbores ascendere potest, same idea, where we have our main verb about what Sextus is able, and then the complementary infinitive finishes that thought, what he is able to do, to climb trees. Multi viatores ad calponam venire solent. Again, we have multi viatores as our subject doing the main action of our verb solent. Many travelers are accustomed to do what? To come to my inn, ad calponam venire. And we find complementary infinitives with a lot of different verbs that can't stand alone because they need another verb to complete their idea. Volo and nolo are 2 really big ones, to want and to not want. Possum, to be able. Amo, to like. Soleo, to be accustomed. Debeo, to ought or to owe to. And then skio and nescio, to know and to not know. All of these verbs need some sort of infinitive frequently with them to complete their idea. What you want to do, what you like to do, what you know how to do, or what you are accustomed to do. Our second main use of the infinitive is when we have an infinitive with an impersonal verb. And just as a reminder, our impersonal verbs need to have a T ending on it, that third person singular, because they need to be translated with it. And these verbs also need to be completed with an infinitive. Our 2 main verbs to recognize for infinitive and impersonal constructions are necessa est, it is necessary, and licet, it is allowed. So an example with necessa est: nobis necessa est statim discedere, it is necessary for us to depart immediately. Here our main impersonal verb is necessa est, it is necessary, and the infinitive completes that idea and tells us what it is necessary to do. Vobis licet hic cenare, It is allowed for us to eat here, and same idea where you have licet as your main verb. It is allowed to do what? To cenare, to eat here. Our third use of the infinitive is when it is being used as the subject of est, and the verb here must be est. It becomes very easy to recognize when you have just the verb est plus an infinitive in your sentence. And this goes back to our old subject, linking verb, and complement type of sentences where we're going to use est as our linking verb between a subject and a complement. In agris pernoctare est periculosum. To spend the night in the fields is dangerous. And here what's really happening is our infinitive pernoctare is acting as our subject with our linking verb est, and then here we have a complement which happens to be an adjective along with it. Now this sounds a little formal in English, so there are other ways that you can translate these types of sentences. English uses the same idea. We just happen to use the ing form of the verb. So instead of saying to spend the night, we would say spending the night in the fields is dangerous. Or even translating it very literally, almost as if this were an impersonal verb, and using the translation it is, and putting this translation in front of our infinitive. It is dangerous to spend the night in the fields. Now, just a reminder that when we have these types of constructions, the infinitive is always going to be treated as an adjective that is neuter. So since our subjects have to equal our complements when we use verbs like est, since the subject is nominative, our complement also must be nominative, and since infinitives are neuter and singular, our complement is going to be neuter and singular, and that explains why we have a um ending on our adjective periculosum. Our last main use of the infinitive is called the accusative-infinitive construction. And like its name implies, we're going to see both an accusative and an infinitive in this sentence. It's most frequently used with verbs of ordering, such as iubere, or verbs of teaching, such as docere. So here, let's go through an example. We have our subject Aurelia, who's doing the action of our main verb docet, to teach. The person that she is teaching is where our accusative is going to come into play, functioning as a direct object. Aurelia teaches Cornelia, and then our infinitive is going to complete that idea. What is Aurelia teaching Cornelia to do? To curare vilam, to take care of the country house. So as its name implies, we're going to have an accusative and an infinitive in these types of sentences, but the kawete there is that you need to recognize it by either your verbs iubere or docere. That's a big signal that you're going to see an accusative-infinitive construction. Disciply, in this next sentence, we have another example of the accusative-infinitive construction. Please pause the video as you complete the 3 tasks on the board, finding that main verb, what Aurelia is doing, finding the accusative of the person that she is ordering, and then find the infinitive of what Aurelia is ordering that person to do. Go ahead and pause the video now. And you can see on the board your answers. Your main verb iubet is what Aurelia is doing. She is ordering. The person that she is ordering is our accusative in our accusative-infinitive construction. She is ordering the slave woman. And then the thing that she is ordering those slave women to do is to ponere, to put. And then we'll finish that thought off with she's putting other tunics into the trunk or the chest. Disciply, that ends our discussion about the various uses of the infinitive that we reviewed in level 1. Walete.